You guys, we're outside. I am so excited. It's been so long because I've actually been out into the garden other than just coming out to say hi to the pigeons in the morning. It is 40 degrees, which is basically summer in Chicago. So what I'm going to do today is take you around and show you how I've been overwintering all of the potted plants that are hopefully going to survive until spring. So there are three main ways that I overwinter plants. Either they stay out on the deck and I do nothing, they stay out on the deck and they're covered, or they get moved down to our garage, which does not go below 40 degrees. So those are the three different methods I use. I've tried over the last, how many winters have we been here now? 4 winters? 5 winters? And what doesn't work, I try something different. What does work, I continue doing. And I don't always keep all my plants alive. Don't let me fool you into that. In fact, I would say figuring out what perennials can survive in my garden, in containers during the Chicago winter is probably the most difficult part, at least of my gardening experience. But my goal is to get more perennials into my garden just so it's easier for me to maintain every year. I'm not always having to add in new plants and fill in new spaces, especially as my spaces expand down to the garage deck. So right now, I'm on the front deck. I was hoping some pigeons would come join us, but they might be napping. So this is the west-facing deck. Out here, everything is outside and uncovered. I don't have any plants that are covered up by any sort of tarp. So let me show you what's going on out here, and then I'll talk a little bit about, has it worked before? Has it not? Is this something new I'm trying out? So let's start with my raspberries. In this corner here are 2 raspberry bushes and then a bunch of other pots. My 2 raspberries are both heritage and they're the same. So I had one original plant and then I propagated it by dividing a runner and put it into a new pot. So that's the variety that I'm growing. These are, I think, the oldest plant in my garden. So for either 3 or 4 winters now, I put them in this corner and they don't die. And I think that's the only plant that has consistently done that. So that's what I continue to do every year. Now there are a bunch of other pots. So basically we have raspberry 1 here, right there, raspberry 2 right behind it. And then everything else here is a pot with soil in it, but no plants. And I'm just using this for insulation. So when a plant is in a pot, it doesn't have as much insulation for the root ball as a plant in the ground. So I'm trying to make up for that by taking any containers that are full of soil and shoving them right up against the other pots. And again, like I said, this has worked so far. So I'm not going to stop doing it until it doesn't. But again, these have been the most consistent for me coming back year after year. So if that is an issue you've been having with some of the plants in your garden, try some raspberries. Now, even though it's cold, plants do still need water over the winter. These could actually dry out and die, although my biggest issue has been the soil staying too wet and my roots rotting. So I'm not typically watering very often outside because we get enough rain and snow. Although this has been a drier winter, I feel like. So I will still come outside once about every 2 weeks when it's above freezing, because if everything's frozen, no point in watering. And I just take my finger and I stick it in the soil. And we got rain, I think it was yesterday. So this is moist, no need to water, but I still checked. I just checked just in case. It's better to get outside, stick your finger in for a few seconds and just make sure. So this is one area where I have perennials, again, just my raspberries. Over here is my native raised bed. So this has a bunch of native perennials in it. Now I just got this bed in 2024. So this is the first winter that there are plants in here, but some of these, like I know the Rudbeckia, were in my center raised bed, which I'll take you over to next. They came back, I dug them up and transplanted them here. So I'm hoping that they'll come back again. Now I will say, in general, when you're trying to overwinter in containers, you want to go 2 zones lower. So I'm 6A, I'd want to find plants that are zones 4A or lower. At the same time though, every winter is different. So your growing zone is based on your average temperature over the last however many number of years during winter. Last year was very mild here. I had plants that came back easily. This year it's been much colder. So just because something survived one winter in my garden doesn't mean it's going to survive every single winter. So knowing that, we'll see what comes back in this bed. But also in here I have prairie onion somewhere. I have milkweed somewhere. And then I think I have echinacea in here as well. So these are all natives, all perennials. If this bed can just keep coming back on its own, that would be great. However, I do think I need to move Some of the plants out of here that are just kind of taking over, like the Rudbeckia is, those might get moved to their own pot, or I might just leave them. We'll see. But this, I'm just letting sit here as is. I did toss some garden waste on it for a little bit of insulation, but if it comes back, it comes back. And if not, I'll be a little sad, but I'll just plant something else in it. This right here is my center raised bed. Now, every year I will put petunias in the corners, and so far I've done zinnias in the center, so all annual plants. But because my zinnias got powdery mildew very early this year, I did pull them out and I planted some, I think marigolds, echinacea, I can't remember what else, but I've left everything. So any of the perennials, we'll see if they come back. If not, they won't. And I might, like if the echinacea does come back, I might actually leave it in here because I might be moving away from just zinnias since they always get powder and mildew. So everything in here, just leaving it as it is. I'm not too concerned whether it comes back or not, but it'll be a nice surprise if anything does. Pigeons are not outside, Jack. They're not outside right now. You can still stay here and watch. I'll let you know if they come, okay? Okay. I literally just said that. And here are Stevie and Oreo. Hi, guys. I don't think you've been in a video in a while because, well, I've been inside. How are you? I was nervous about them over the winter because I don't know how pigeons live, but apparently they're made for cold weather. So they've been good. They live next door. I usually see them in the morning. I'll pop out and say hi. And then once it's warm and I spend my mornings outside, they hang out then too. Now the last place I'm attempting to overwinter a plant out here on the front deck is in here, and I'm pretty sure it's not going to work. I left a dahlia tuber in here. It was a decorative dahlia, not a dahlia I meant to buy. It was mislabeled. So I didn't feel like digging it up and storing it in the garage with all my other dahlias. Now, dahlia tubers like to be between 40 and 50 degrees Fahrenheit over winter. It's colder than that here. I just threw a bunch of stuff on top. Again, garden waste. We'll see if it comes back. But if it does, this will be the biggest surprise of the 2025 garden. I'm not holding out any hope for this dahlia tuber. But I think that's everything out here that I'm attempting to overwinter. Now I will take you over to the back deck, or the east facing deck, and that is where I think I have every single thing that I'm overwintering covered, either with a tarp or in my plastic greenhouse. So we'll head out there after I say a quick goodbye. Oh, they're kissing to the pigeons. Okay, they literally just stopped as I tried to, oh, no, not on camera, not on okay. Let me give you a quick lay of the land of the back deck. So I do have my evergreens. I did forget these are uncovered. They are hardy to zone 4, so I'm hoping they survive. We'll see with this abnormally cold winter if they do. Anything else you see that's a plant is an annual that I'm just waiting to pull in the spring. And then these beds are all filled with bulbs. There are 200 bulbs in this bed, all tulips, I believe. Then there is a mix of bulbs in these 3 beds, and everything is tarped and will stay tarped until probably mid to late spring. Trying to overwinter bulbs has been my biggest struggle because I want to have a garden full of beautiful spring flowers, but trying to get the right level of moisture, which is typically not too much, has been a little difficult with trial and error. When I first planted tulips, I left them uncovered. It actually worked that year, probably because it wasn't very wet. Next year, everything rotted, so then I started tarping, but then I think it was last year, I took the tarp off too soon. So they'd already started to sprout in early spring. I took the tarp off so they could get some sun and not grow into the tarp. And then it rained a whole bunch more. So they started to rot. They were poking up through the soil like a couple inches, then stopped growing because the bulb rotted. So we're gonna see what happens this year. I'm hoping if I just keep them tarped a little bit longer, or if I throw the tarp on, if I know it is going to rain, hopefully that will work. If not, well, I keep saying this every year. If it doesn't work, I'll give up on bulbs, but I'll probably try something else again next year. But these are all my bulbs, so I do not add any extra water to these. They got a little bit of water when they got planted, and that is it. So I'm not even touching or looking at any of these beds until spring. That is a celosia plant that I was trying to use as a Christmas tree, and it did not work. But behind it is my greenhouse. This is where I have plants that are hardy down to zone 4, but maybe I want a little bit of extra moisture protection or just a little bit of extra warmth. I mean, it's a plastic greenhouse. It's not adding too much warmth to it, but mostly I'm using this to protect the plants from the rain. So let me show you what I do, again, about every 2 weeks. So these are the plants in my greenhouse. I think these have tulips in them as well. I have a lot of my hydrangeas that are hardy down to zones 4. Anything that was 5 or 6, I put in the garage. I have some of my mints back there. There's just kind of a variety of plants. But what I do is I open up the flap every 2 weeks. I come in here. I touch the soil. Now, since these are these bulbs or are these empty? I don't know. It'll be a nice surprise. But I will just touch the soil again with my finger, and everything so far is moist enough. Now, the last time I used the greenhouse, which I don't think I did last year, but I did the year before, I never had to water. It just stays that moist in here that, in fact, sometimes I would come in and open the flap on warmer days. But I'm just making sure to touch every pot that's in here to see if it needs water. And just continuing to do the same thing all the way down the greenhouse. And my fingers already smell like mint, and it smells very, very good. So I pushed everything back. All the plants are still moist, so I don't know if I'm gonna have to water. Maybe as we get closer into spring, it starts to heat up a little bit, but then when it heats up, that makes the greenhouse more humid. So we'll see, but it's kind of nice that I don't have to water anything in there. I still check, like I said, every 2 weeks, but it's been very low maintenance. So the last place now is down to the garage. That again stays, well, it does not go below 40 degrees. If it does, the heater kicks on, moves it back up, which is perfect for the dahlia tubers. I also have down there, well, I'll show you in a second, but basically anything that's still in a nursery container that I should have potted up last year, or anything that is not hardy down to zone 4. And because those are in the garage, it's not super humid. They don't have any exposure to rain or snow, so those I do water. I would say I'm watering them maybe about every 3 to 4 weeks. Again, I just use my finger. Some of them are smaller pots, some are larger, so it does vary. But let me take you down there and show you those plants. I'm in the garage now. I hope the lighting is good enough in here that you can see. So starting on the bottom, everything down there is either tubers, dahlia tubers, or tulip bulbs. So nothing that's below the tabletop I water or look at or check. Everything up here though, I do check and see if it needs to be watered. So again, I have anything that's still in nursery pots, some hydrangeas that are zone 5 or 6. I have my columnar apple trees because I need to pot those up and didn't. I have my fig tree, my peach tree, and I think that's it. So same thing. I come in, I stick my finger in it. This one feels moist. Oh, and there's little buds on it too. That makes me happy to see. But I just do the same exact thing. So I will come in and stick my finger in all the pots. Now, typically, if the ones in the nursery pots are good, the rest are good because they're larger and hold water a little bit longer, but I still do at least touch the soil in all of them. Look at the growth. Oh, I'm so excited and ready for spring. All right, I actually think all of them are fine. Well, that is how I'm attempting to keep all my plants alive over the winter. Again, I don't expect for everything to survive, but it is fun to experiment, see what does work, see what doesn't. Jack also likes to hang out, and it is nice too, almost to just have some sort of garden task to do over the winter. Just come out, see how things are doing. I usually do when I'm not absolutely freezing. Like today, I don't even need a coat out here, which is fantastic. So I will update you in the spring. Every spring I do a video where I have a pile of things that lived and a pile of things that died. So we will see what does and doesn't live, but these are the methods I've found so far that do work pretty well, I'd say, in my container garden. So let me know if you have any questions. Thank you so much for watching. Jack says thank you as well, and we will see you in the next video. Bye. Want to say bye? You want to say bye, or are you just here for pigeons? Yeah, they're not here right now.